Namaste to all of you. My name is Manya. A few years ago, I was a film actress and I completed 41 movies as a lead star in South Indian movies, Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, and Kannada. Then I graduated from Columbia University with a major in math and statistics, and now I work as a finance professional in New York City. I would like to welcome all of you. I know the current COVID-19 pandemic has affected all our lives very badly, and this program is to help to answer any questions that you have in the way that it's affected your lives. First and foremost, I would like to thank the following organizations for supporting us. One, Bay Area Telugu Association, Telugu Fine Arts Society of New Jersey, Telugu Association of Metro Atlanta, Telangana American Telugu Association, Chicago Andhra Association. Today's agenda is one, I'm going to give you a general update. The second one is going to be a potential layoff of the H-1B status issues, visa compliance for H-1B and remote projects, university and school closures, F1 school student visa issues, and emergency travel to India, and any issues related to expired passports and EAD renewals. I would like to introduce Kavita Ramasami, who's an immigration attorney for 20 years in New York and New Jersey. So please welcome Ms. Kavita Ramasami.
Thank you, Manya. Thank you to all the organizations for doing this at this very crucial time. Thanks for doing this. And is there anything, or can we start?
We can start. So
okay.
We could start off with some general information, and if you could give us any updates on the current USCIS updates on the COVID-19 situation here.
Yes, thanks, Manya. Before starting this, I would like to give a general disclaimer that this session is only for informational purposes, and please do not consider this as a legal advice and for any case-specific information, because the facts may vary from what we advise. And always consult an attorney in your case-specific situation, because immigration law is very complex and ever-changing. So please take this only for informational purposes. And also, I just wanted to tell you that there are so many rumors floating around, and also so many flyers about stating it's USCIS update. And I wanted you to please always verify the information and validate the information with the appropriate USCIS government website. It's uscis.gov. And for any embassy, US embassy issues or any information regarding that, please always see travel.state.gov, travel.state.gov for any openings or any updates about the US embassies and for the visa bulletin information. So having said that, I just wanted to start with the question and answer session, whatever we have as a general information, because many of you, because we are so overwhelmed with the response we got today, and so many questions we got, and we are very overwhelmed with this. And I wanted to first provide all the because there are so many common questions. So we could just go with the common questions first, and then we can address the specific questions.
Sure. So I'll start off with one question. We know that almost 10 million people have filed for unemployment benefits in the US. And we know that the current travel situation, we cannot travel back, and how H-1Bs are affected. So for example, if a person is on H-1B and has been laid off or they have lost the project, what are his or her options within the current situation?
If a person in H-1B has been laid off and the person has an I-94, then the person has a 60 days time within a H-1B period, which is granted once in a H-1B period, to find for another employment or a project, whichever is applicable, and then file for a change of employment or an amendment as applicable within the 60 days. So the person has a 60 days time if they have an I-94 valid to find another employer and file the change of status or an amendment accordingly.
And which is difficult in this situation because a lot of employers have a hiring freeze right now. So the other option you said was they changed to a B2 status.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
That is true, because if the person if they not find any employment or a project during the 60-day period, the grace period granted, then the option is at this time, because there is a travel suspension and there is a flight cancellation, and during this scenario where they cannot travel back, so I would suggest them to file for a change of status to B2 visitor visa, explaining the COVID-19 situation and about their inability to travel back due to the current situation. And they can also try certain cases, F1 will be applicable, but they have to contact an attorney to see if they are eligible for the same.
This relate to the same issue because of H1B layoffs. They don't have health insurance. So as you had mentioned earlier, when they don't have health insurance, yes, COVID-19, if they get infected with COVID-19, the government covers whatever health requirements that they need. But for regular matters, there's no help from anywhere, right, for the health issues.
Absolutely. See, in this situation where, because if they are affected with COVID-19, yes, they are covered. But if it is not, and if they are laid off and they do not have health insurance from the company, I would suggest them to keep the health insurance through Cobra, some other way, so that until until they go back or if they change the status, whatever the situation may be, I'd suggest them to maintain the status.
Maintain the status.
Yeah. Yes. And also, so, you asked me for the updates from USCIS. I think.
Yes.
Okay. Regarding everybody would know that now the premium processing has been cancelled. Currently, there is no premium processing available for any non-immigrant visa classifications, not for H1, L1, O, P, R, nothing. And the major affected area is there is no premium processing for I-140. This is very crucial for people who are maxing out on the H1B visa. H1B time, the 6 years time, and they have not filed for the perm processing. So this is very crucial. So given that there is no premium processing for the I-140, I would suggest that they plan early and please file for your perm before 365 days of your H1B maxing out. So this is one update from USCIS. And the second update is there is a relief they have given for RFEs, NOIR, and notice of intent to revoke and notice of intent to deny, and the request for evidence, where the letter date is dated March 1st to May 1st. They have 60 days time from the time of the deadline. So RFEs have 87 days deadline, and NOIRs and NOIDs have 30 days deadline. So they have time of 60 days from the deadline. It's only within this period of March 1st to May 1st. All other times, whatever the RF is received, they have to respond on time. So this is an update from the USCIS regarding to the COVID-19 situation, and USCIS has a page for the COVID-19 situation. So please verify from USCIS for any updates. And also all the offices of USCIS is closed until May 3rd currently. So all interviews, 485 interviews and biometrics are postponed. And regarding the EAD renewals, if there are, H4 EAD renewal is pending, USCIS has announced that they are going to take the biometric from the previous one and continue to process. But still, I would suggest that continue to expect delays in all the processing in general. So, obviously, ELA is trying. The ELA has filed a lawsuit against USCIS, and to stop. Currently, there are so many situations where people can go unlawful status because they cannot even go back. So, to give a relief to this, USCIS, ELA has asked USCIS and also taken a lawsuit against them, and they've also suggested that to everyone to contact the congressman in the state to urge the administration to provide such relief to the non-immigrant and immigrant visa classification where people can go out of status in this situation.
And thank you for mentioning that. I didn't know about that. So I'll also be reaching out because although it doesn't affect me personally, it affects a lot of my close friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we can also put it in the TVAsia website or wherever the information with the the email information, we can send it to people who have contacted us. We can provide the sample. AILA has provided a sample letter to send it to the congressman. We can do that as well.
We could do that. Probably that would be a great idea to send it, to put it in their YouTube site too.
Absolutely.
So moving on, another question that I'd received is, what if someone's I-94 has expired and the H-1B is denied? Currently, they can't travel. So what would be the next steps?
Yeah, this is a very crucial situation here and a very sad state. This is where the AILAS, requested relief for these situations where currently the I-94 has expired and the H-1B is denied, where now they cannot even travel back. So the next option is to change the status currently. So they have to change the status. If the I-94 is valid, at least they can change it to dependent status and come back when the H-1B is up. I mean, if they find a job and they can transfer it back to the H-1B. But currently, when the I-94 is expired, we can file for a B2 change of status requesting for non-protunct. Non-protunct is filing for now for then, which means that consider this as timely filed. So you can file for a B2 change of status, asking them to consider non-protunct. And in certain situations, if you think your H-1B is denied in error, USCIS error, or if you are very confident that they made an error in denying your H-1B, then in certain situations, check with your attorney to see if they can refile the H-1B non-protunct and stating the current COVID-19 situation as well. So these are the options available, but always be cognizant of the ULP, the unlawful presence. Because if you are here more than 180 days from the denial or from the end of the I-94, whichever is applicable in your case, if you stay here for more than 180 days, you will not be allowed to enter in the country for 3 years. And if you stay here for more than 365 days, then there is a 10-year bar. So be always cognizant of this. Be aware of your case in general, because you should know what is your case, and do some general research. That's what I always suggest. And know your case, be aware, and then be also always aware of the ULP as well. And in the situation at this present time, we have to only file for a change of status or your H-1B refiling and the MTR. So whichever is applicable in your case, please do that. And so that you can be aware that you file something in this case and you can travel back when the situation gets better. So your situation may be case specific. Please consult an attorney to see what can be done in your case.
And then what if someone has maxed out on that 6 years H-1B and cannot file the 7th year extension and cannot go back? So what is your take on this?
Manya, this is where we talked about with the I-140 premium processing suspension currently. Currently with the I-140 premium processing suspension, the kind of cases are going to come out more. Because if people have filed the perm before 365 days before the expiry of 6 years, then they are safe to file the 7th year extension. At least they will get a year, even if the I-140 is not approved. However, if they have not filed the perm before the 365 days and currently because they cannot travel, this situation they have to, it's better that they file for B2 change of status, explaining the current situation and their inability to travel at this time, given the flight cancellation and the travel suspension in place. So please file for the B2 change of status, and then once the situation gets better, you can always go back.
Yes.
And also I would suggest that in the situation, please strategize if you are in 5th year and if you have not filed the permit, or if you are in 6th year and you have not filed the permit, strategize your filing accordingly. Some people have, some of them may have the recapture time in the first 6 years. They can use that recapture time. And if they do not have recapture time, you can plan now when the situation gets better to go out for few months and then come back. If that is an option, explore it. So strategize your filing so that you can file for the 7th year extension.
That's
So
very
it's very
important.
crucial to plan early given the
Yes.
I-40 premium processing suspension.
Yeah, yes, very crucial, very important point. Thank you. And now, since I'm working from home, most people are working from home, and currently those on H1B are also requested to work from home with the situation. We know that the home address is not provided in the LCA. So how do we go about that? And is that okay, or what do we do in such a situation?
Yes, this is also a very common question asked, because currently, other than essential workers, as you said, everybody has to work from home. So if your home is within the MSA as stated in the LCA, if it's within the same MSA metropolitan statistical analysis, so if that is within that time, or with that area or the commutable distance, you don't have to worry about it. So meaning like if you are in the same area as your workplace, then you don't have to worry about anything. All you have to do is post your LCA in your home in 2 locations and then put it in the public access file. It's very weird. It sounds very weird that you have to put the LCA in your home, but that's what the regulations states, unless we get information otherwise in the situation. You have to do that and post those LCA in the public access file. So that is one thing you have to do if your home is within the same LCA. But if your home is not, or the work location is not within the same MSA or the commutable distance from the workplace mentioned in the LCA, then you have 30 days short-term placement memo. As per the short-term placement memo, you can work from some other place for 30 days in a year. That is allowed, but looks like it's going to be extended now.
Longer, yes.
Yeah, more than 30 days. So in that case, I would suggest that you please file an amendment specifying your home address as the location of work. So that would take care of that.
To give an actual example, like suppose my office is in New York City, and I have a couple of colleagues who commute from Connecticut and come from Princeton. So they would have the second option that you mentioned. Is that
absolutely? If it's going to be more than 30 days, which I think it is going to be, so then they have to file for an H1B amendment. Yeah, and once you file this amendment, they can start working from the location.
They can start working.
They can continue working. Yeah,
continue to work after the 30-day period. Okay.
Yes.
So, and leading to that, many employers are not allowed to work from home due to the nature of the work. And what if the employer doesn't pay them, or since there's no productive work during the work from home phase, can they reduce wages, or can they reduce the number of work hours, or are they allowed to do the employers?
So I will take this question into 3 parts. What should they do? Can they not pay? So an employer is not allowed, a non-payment of a worker for an unproductive work is only allowed when the request comes from the employee for something which is unrelated to the work. And if the employee is on a vacation, or if he has to take care of somebody ill at home, or if for inability to continue to go to work, for example, if they are in an automobile accident or a maternity leave, these kind of requests, if it comes from the employee, it's okay for employer not to pay. Other than this, the employer has to pay the prevailing wage or the actual wage, whatever is stated in the LCA. They have to pay. There is no relief provided by DOL until this time for the current COVID-19 situation. So they have to pay the wages. There is no excuse from that. But if there is an actual wage, in certain situation where the actual wage is much more, and those situations, they can file for an amendment to reduce it to the prevailing wage, and they can start working. Those situation is allowed, but nothing as such for furlough is not allowed. They have to still pay, like no post vacation without pay is allowed as well. However, you asked a question about reduced hours.
Yes.
This is a part-time. If a full-time is a 40 hours per week. But if it is a part-time, if it is less than 35 hours a week, I would suggest that please talk to your employer and file for a part-time H1. Amend your H1B to a part-time H1, and then once you file it, you can start working on the part-time H1. So that is allowed. So reduced hours is allowed, but non-payment or furlough or benching, none of this is allowed at
Is
this time. You
allowed.
have to pay the employee.
Okay. And unless, as you mentioned, the employee recommends, if I as an employee go and tell them that I'm not productive and I want unpaid leave for this amount of time because of any particular
vacation, and that too they'll be very because current situation, there can be employer who is forcing the employee to ask for it. So just you have to be aware that DOL can also look into it if the employer has forced employee to say that. So you have to be very cautious about it as well.
So we as employees are protected that way. That's good to know. And coming to the stimulus package, I know the government here has issued a stimulus package of $1,200, $1,500, and per child, I think $500, and so on. Is it considered as tax credit? And how do we go about the stimulus package for H-1Bs? And should we apply? Should we not? Like, if you could update us on that.
Yeah, you said it right, Manya. It's if it is, I mean, I think it's going to be considered as a tax credit. And if it is considered tax credit, it will not be coming under the public charge. So the employee, it is okay for the H-1B employee to get the stimulus package. But however, I will check for the eligibility and other information from your CPA and wait for more updates as well. But in my opinion, it is okay because it will not, if it is as a tax credit, it will not be a public charge, definitely.
Okay, that's good to know. And many people that I know, even some of my family friends, have parents visiting from India, and they are on the I-94. Some of the people, the parents' I-94 is about to expire, and they need guidance on the filing extension. I myself was in this situation, like I think 2 years ago, when I extended for my mom. She was here for 6 months. I needed her for more, so we did an extension. So everyone wants to know the process of filing and what your advice is on such a situation.
Yes, Manya, the thing is, many people are worried about the parents visiting here. They are on visitor visa, and the visitor visa is about to expire. And they cannot even travel back given the current situation where there's a travel suspension and the flights are cancelled. In this situation, what I would suggest is please file for an extension, file for another B2 extension, and in the letter to USA as well, filing extension, mention the COVID-19 as the reason and tell them that they cannot travel back, and so they are extending here. But there is a word of caution here. Please, as soon as you file, you can always go back when the situation gets better. Do not wait for the decision to come from USCIS for your B2 extension application, because that can take more than 6 months. But you would have asked only for 6 months, and you don't want to wait for 7-8 months, and because you are waiting for the decision. So within the time, as soon as the things get better, I would suggest that you leave.
Yes, that's true. And for some people, I know they've already applied for an extension. Like they come here 6 months and they've applied for another 6 months. So what do such people do if they've already applied for an extension?
That's a very good question. Actually, the B2 is, the regulation state it's only for a year with 6 months extension. So basically it's for a year. In this situation, they have already extended for a year, meaning they have there's one-time extension. Sometimes that extension is also pending. So what to do with the current situation? There is nothing much we can do because it is a very exceptional situation where it is not their fault because the flights are cancelled. I know many people who have already booked the flights, and the airlines called and said that that's cancelled. So it's not their fault. I would suggest that file, instead of not doing anything, please file for another extension and explain that, this give the tickets and the reasons, I mean, that the airline is cancelling the tickets and has cancelled the tickets, and apply for another extension. And the same thing here, please leave as soon as the situation gets better and the flights are resumed and the travel suspension is lifted. So please leave, and you should be okay, because USA is compassionate. They're also persons who know the situation, and they will understand the situation, definitely.
And as you said, if you have all the evidence, you have the tickets, everyone knows of the situation right now, so it wouldn't be a problem, even if they have extended for 1 year. So please just apply for the extension rather than not doing anything in this situation.
Absolutely.
And also, I heard that lots of people's passports are getting delayed. And can extensions be filed for an expired passport was one of the questions.
Yes, this is also, I think, yeah, one of the questions I also read, like somebody has sent that question as well. Yes, currently, I think the Indian, I just checked just before, the session about the status, the Indian consulate and, I think the embassy has said that you have to, in certain case, in this kind of situation, you can send an email to them and stating that your extension is going to, your current visa is going to expire and you have to file an extension and you need the passport, and they will send an email approval and just follow the directions and file for the passport renewal. So that is allowed. Generally, the USCIS will deny extensions without the passport, but in this situation, even if you do not get and the extension is due now, please do not wait for the passport, file for an extension and tell them that this give all the evidence that you have filed for your passport renewal, which is currently pending, and if there is an RFE, then that time you can submit the renewed passport. But you have to take care of the renewal, the timely extension renewal as well of your visa as well.
Of the visa as well. Yes. And we know a lot of universities and schools are closed, and a lot of students are also suffering because of that. And we know that the F1 visas, they need to have attend physical classes to maintain their status, and they cannot do so because of the current situation, and most of the classes are online. Can you update us on that, on their situation, on the visa?
Yeah, in the current situation, they have provided a relief currently where the colleges and the universities are closed. They can attend the online classes. So the temporary relief has been provided for the students, and they can take the online classes as well.
Okay.
So that shouldn't be a problem at this
That
time.
shouldn't be a problem for anyone who's on the student visa. So that's really good to know. So I'm going to, since we covered most of the general questions, I'm going to move to the specific questions that we got from people.
And before that, I think I wanted to talk about little bit about the unemployment benefits, whether
Sure.
The H1Bs, there's so many H1Bs and L1s, they're very confused and always ask the question whether can they apply for unemployment benefit and will it be a public charge? So the first question first thing I wanted to say that the unemployment benefit is not a public charge because, it is an earned benefit for you. So it is not a public charge. However, being in a H1, can you file for an unemployment benefit? No. Definitely a big no for H1B or L1 because for an unemployment insurance, you have to be available to work. So in this case, where you need an employer to sponsor your employment, you are not considered available to work. More than that, then I wanted you to check your state rules because unemployment is controlled by the state. And being on a H1 and L1, please do not apply for unemployment benefit because since you are not available for work without the sponsorship and you cannot be unemployed for a long time, it is because your status issue is also there. So I would suggest please do not file for unemployment insurance. However, there's H4 EADs. There is also a question about whether an H4 EAD can file for an unemployment benefit. In this case also, I would say that the state, you have to look into the state rules, but unlike H1 or L1, H4s do not have, it's not that they do not need sponsorship. They are available to work. However, their visa on the EAD is also tied to the H1.
It's the H1, yes.
So the H1, how, the time period till they are eligible for. So you have to look into very specific in the situation. So consult an attorney about your specific case, whether you are qualified. So please do not overdo it and be very cautious when you are applying, particularly for H4 EAD. H1 and L1, I would not suggest, but for H4 EAD, be very cautious, check with people and attorneys, and then file for the limited period of time which you are eligible for.
So again, to reiterate, H1B, L1, please not file for unemployment benefits as you need a sponsor. So thank you for that information. That was very, very important.
Yes,
and
currently,
currently, yes, that's very important. And so we have a lot of questions have come in, and we won't be able to answer each one of them. So for everyone who's online, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com TVAsia/Telugu. So if you would subscribe to the channel, and you could see the entire program, and most of your questions also will be answered by Ms. Ramasami here. So please do subscribe to our channel. I'm going to go to the specific requirements here, specific questions that we had, which are very lean towards different, but we have touched upon a couple of subjects, but I'm just going to reiterate again. So Krishna says, I'm a master's student with F1 status. I'll be graduating in May 2020. Due to the present pandemic situation, I'm unable to find any jobs. What should my next steps be? I've also applied for my EAD, and the indefinite 90-day start date is on July 7, 2020. Should I continue searching for jobs, or should I apply for another master's program, is this question.
So here it is very crucial for OPT students. Unlike, there's a very, if you compare the OPT with H1s, in OPTs, the furloughs are allowed, whereas, they continue the employment, but they can take a, non-payment as well. So these kind of situations are available for OPT, because please call and check whether what are all eligible. You are eligible as a OPT, because you have more relief in certain situations compared to the H1Bs. I would say that you are also allowed, in the situation where you cannot get work within 90 days. I see that, you have a start date of July 7th, and you are worried if you are not getting employment, what will you, or if you have to file another master. I would say that, if you are on OPT, you have to look for part-time volunteering opportunities as well, because even that is allowed.
Wow, that's good to know. Yeah, so part-time volunteering.
In these cases, you can look into the volunteering opportunity to keep the status as well. And it is also better here as well. So look into those options before you consider getting into another master's program. So that if it is just for the employment, so this group of people can look into
volunteering.
That's a good. If people are, for non-payments, and if they are keeping the employees, then it's also fine. If it is a non-payment, furloughs are allowed for OPTs as well.
For OPTs, okay, that's really good to know. The other question is from Arvind. He mentioned that his H1 visa expires in October 2020, but his wife's H4 and H4 EAD expires in July 2020. I had initially planned to apply all of the visa renewals together. So, however, due to coronavirus, the premium processing, we spoke about this, had stopped. So now, what he says is, now can I send my wife's H4 and H4 EAD application for extension till October, and then file for all of our extensions together?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not clear why you are not filing together. Because it's in 6 months time you can file together, but if it's a very specific some situation where you cannot file both the cases together, then yes, you can file for your H4 and H4 EAD first, and with the receipt you can file another one as well. So though it is going to be two different things again within the short time, yes, you can do that. And there is no automatic extension for H4 EAD. The H4 EAD has to be approved. So you have to be aware of that as well.
That's true. The next question is from Sarita. Similar situation to many people. My mom is with me in USA. Her I-94 status is up to June 6th. I would like to extend her I-94 status so that she can stay here until the crisis comes down. And meanwhile, my mom's visa also expires in November. Should I apply for a visa extension also? Please advise.
I guess like we also are, as you said, like we spoke about this as well. Yes, if your mom is, current visitor visa currently is expiring, yes, you have to file for her extension currently. Please state that the current situation of COVID-19 and that she cannot travel now, and the situation in India is as also that way where you cannot do international flights are allowed. So you can state this reason and file for the B2 extension for your mom. And as I said, please do not wait for the decision to come, and they have to, your mom has to leave as soon as the situation gets better and the flights are resumed. And you also asked a question about the visa stamping about for your mom.
Yes.
So yes, I believe, like, she will be eligible for the drop box. So once she goes back, she can file for the visa stamping. I believe, like, when she goes back, everything will be resumed that time. So look for whatever the current status is at the US consulates, and then apply for a visa renewal at the consulate.
The next question is from Srinivas from Georgia, and this one is close to my heart because it's a really sad situation, and it could happen to any one of us being parents. So he says, my wife traveled to India on February 27 to attend her dad's ceremony. She had a visa interview at the US consulate on March 16th, which got cancelled. As we all know, everything has been cancelled. I am in Georgia with 2 kids aged 5 and 13. My son is a US citizen. We reached out to the consulate several times, but were asked to wait till the consulate opens in India. My 5-year-old is unable to take the separation from his mom. That breaks my heart. It's 6 weeks already. Currently unsure of the situation. We requested for emergency visa appointment under humanitarian grounds, but it was denied. This is heartbreaking. Actually.
Yes, this is a very sad situation. See, many people are going through very, very difficult times this time, where so many people are worried about unemployment. I just wanted to talk about a little bit about though the current situation is difficult for everybody, it is more difficult for immigrants here because of the visa dependency. It is very hard because the anxiety about their status and their inability to travel currently. These situations, really, it's very hard on a family as such. So they don't know what to do in this situation where the mom has gone to India and the visa stamping is cancelled, and the dad is with the 2 small children, and they don't know what to do, and they've tried everywhere but nothing could be done. And unfortunately, I don't have a positive response in this case, because the only reason is you have to wait in this case because the consulates are closed, and the current thing is only for them to look for US citizens there, and to see, like, if somebody wants to travel, to bring them back here. So unless and otherwise, they're not really giving importance to the visa issues currently, and the consulates are closed, and until they open, there's nothing can be done currently. Even if they open, I don't know, like, how soon they are going to grant all the appointments or open for appointments, and there can be delays as well. But that time, maybe you can request for emergency uh, appointments and providing the situation, and they may consider giving the considering the separation. So until that time, there can be nothing done. And even the consulate, if you're talking about the consulate issue, the emergency visas, nothing. Even with the Indian consulates, until April 14th, everything is closed. I've seen many cases where the parents, one of the parent passed away, and or they have passed away here, and they cannot even go take the body there, or passed away there, and the children cannot go from here. It is very, very sad situation where nothing can be done. These are emergency for Indian consulates, but currently, given the situation where there are no international flights allowed to be landed in India, there's nothing, and the borders being closed, we cannot do anything at the situation. And consulates also have expressed their inability to do anything, and though they are very concerned about the situation and normally will consider this as an emergency situation and help, but currently nothing can be done. So there are people who are in a very bad situation as well. So I would say that sometimes we have to consider that people where they could do nothing in a very, very emergency situation as well. So these kind of situations, there are people in this, and people go through a lot of different things. So I would suggest that, all the thing we have to be is to be compassionate for each other. And I am sure, like, this is going to, together we can all overcome these issues which we are going through currently. And everybody is facing it. There are certain bad situations, but we have to look into it and wait for the consulates to open at this time.
So to open. It's very heartbreaking, especially 6 weeks without a mother for a 5-year-old. It's just moving on to the next question. This is from Santosh. And he says, my name is Santosh. I'm currently on H1B and have the following questions. My employer terminated my employment on 31st March. My grace period ends on 30th May with travel bans in India. I am stuck in US. How do I maintain my legal status? And if I go back to India and my employer decides to hire me back, can I come back on the same H1B visa since it's valid until 2022?
Yeah, so I think we touched upon regarding people getting layoff when the I-94 is valid. The first option I would suggest is to look for the person to change the status if they can change it to a dependent visa. Meaning if the person's spouse is on a H1B or L1, then the person can look into an option of changing it to the L2 or H4 visa first. That's the option. And once they get a job, they can always change their status back to H1B. And then once it's approved, they can start working. So that is the first change of status option. They have to look into it. Not many people have that option. So the other next option currently, when they cannot travel back, you can file for the B2 change of status at this time and tell them that the current COVID situation, you're unable to travel, even though the 60 days has ended. And once it is, once you can travel, please go back. But there is a very tricky situation. You asked whether if you get a job later and you come using the same H1B, if you get another, or if your employer hires back. That's what your question. Yeah.
Yeah.
If your
the same
employer hires back, and
yeah.
if it is in the same location, and if it is in the same project, and if you have not cancelled the H1B, there are options you can come. But again, because if you file for the change of status here, I would suggest that you have to go for a stamping again, because if it is approved. Otherwise, if you plan to go back and withdraw this, that's a different case. So this is a very case specific. Before you travel, always check what you have done or what is your current status with your change of status petition. So you look into that and decide that time. But generally, if you could go before May, yes. If your employer rehires you with the same employment and you have not canceled the H1, then you can come back in the same H1. But if the employer has canceled, or if the project is in a different location, then you have to file for another H1B or an amendment, whatever the situation demands. Then you have to still you can come back on the same H1B, showing the new approval or the amendment in the port of entry. However, if the change of status has taken place, then you have to go for stamping.
Okay. The next one is from Hima. She says, my name is Hima Sagar and my passport will expire on July 7th, 2020. A few months back, my H1B visa was renewed and I got another 3 years extension up to February 2023. I-94 was also mapped. Due to this, Due to this COVID-19 situation, the embassy and CKGS is closed and they're not taking any passport renewals. So if I cannot submit the passport renewal application before July 2020, can I stay here? And please suggest what consequences will I face?
So in this situation, to summarize the question, the person has an valid I-94 till 2023. So February 2023, she has an I-94 which was extended, and only that her passport is expiring in July. So in this case, the stay here in this country is only controlled by the I-94. So as long as your I-94 is valid until 2023, you are absolutely fine to stay here until 2023, even if your passport has expired or is expiring. However, in this current situation, I hope things will resume before July.
July, I know. Scary. I'm like, oh my God, July.
So you have time till July to renew your passport. So I would suggest that please go ahead and renew your passport, and your status is not dependent on your passport renewal. However, for your travel, you need your passport. So please renew it. And I don't think it's an emergency situation as well concerning, when it comes to the immigration, I mean, the US Indian consulate, because you already have a valid I-94. So I believe, we hope and believe that we are going to be good before July.
Before July, praying, keeping fingers crossed, praying for that. But thank you so much, Kavita ji. This has been really, really helpful, and I hope everybody must have. I mean, it would have helped a lot of people also. And I know we have a lot more questions coming, and we will reach out to all of you individually because some of the questions are very specific. So Kavita ji has agreed to reach out and answer most of them. But thank you so much for taking your time.
I have a couple of, I think we have 10 more minutes time. Can I go
You
through?
can? Yes, please
Yeah.
do. Please do.
Can I go through a couple of questions? So
yes.
Somebody has asked, like, I've applied for H-1B extension premium and got an RFE regarding specialty occupation and position suitability. This is from Shiva Prasad. Response is due by June 5th, which means that your, I'm not sure, like, your RFE was before March 1st. I believe so. I'm ready with my RFE paperwork. Do I still wait till May end, or should I respond it right away? What is the approval ratio in Vermont location, and do I need to respond now or later? This is a very, very good question, because Shiva Prasad, I really appreciate, because you are aware of what your status is or what your case is, because many people are not aware of the situation which I've dealt with, where these kind of situation is where you have to strategize to respond to the RFE. Basically, you currently have till June 5th. Again, I'm not sure whether you will be eligible until for next 60 days, but if it is the case also, like, you have to know how your case is. If your RFE response is very strong, then I would suggest that you can respond. Since you have already filed in premium processing before the premium processing got over on March 20th, your RFE will be processed, response will be processed in premium as well, meaning like you will get a decision in 15 days time. So you know your case well. If you believe that your case is strong and you have responded to all the issues raised in your RFE, and the specialty occupation question is addressed, then you can file for it. Our Vermont Service Center approval ratio, it is, again, it is about based on your case. Nobody can predict that. I would suggest you make a decision. And if you think because you want to wait till the travel is, something is back or resumed, so that you want to plan or strategies accordingly, please do so. You can wait until May end as well. But it all depends on your the case status, or how strong your case is. So plan accordingly.
I have one more question here, Kavita ji. How to deal with assets purchased like a house, cars with the I-140 status and impacted with COVID-19 and laid off on H-1B?
Oh, this is not an immigration question, because I 100% deal with immigration, but definitely, contact your real estate attorney. And even with the layoffs, there's so many government programs are there currently to the layoff. There is a payment protection plan, the payroll protection plan. And I've seen many companies are using those benefits, and the smaller companies, I believe, less than 500 employees, are using it and not laying off. So even though the federal programs are, provided to the small business, but still layoffs are going on. So in this current situation, I don't know about an asset purchase, but you have to look into the talk to a real estate attorney or
Real estate.
somebody else to see like how uh, you are going to be benefited or how it's going to take care. I believe some mortgage companies are giving protection, but I personally don't have expertise in that.
Thank you. The next one is the question is my kids are holding PIO cards, and as of today, we could not apply for OCI cards. Can we use PIO to travel to India in future after the COVID-19 situation?
It is an India situation. I really
It's
don't have an answer. But I listened to the counselor the other day. He said, like, currently, I guess all the PIOs are done now, and everybody has to apply for OCI.
OCI. That's
And
what I
there
think
is
I heard too. Yes.
yeah, I heard that they have extended until June. Currently last year, like whatever the OCI for the kids and for adults needs OCI renewal, they have extended until June 30th. But the consular officer was telling the other day that he doesn't know whether they are going to extend it, but he's hoping that they are going to extend it so that the renewals will be easier that
Within
time.
the time frame. Okay.
So I have a question about H1B. I have few questions regarding H1B from Raj
Yes.
Kumar. I went to my home country 3 months back in an emergency situation, and when my extension was pending, and came back to US once my extension got approved. Okay, so I'm back. My contract was completed and no project due to the COVID-19, but my employment with my employer is still going and looking for a new project. So what is the grace period? We've already covered this as well. There is a 60-day grace period if your project or an employment is over, and if your I-94 is valid. So you are in this situation where you are eligible to find for a new project within 2 months. You have also asked like what happens if we don't run payroll for continuously 3 months. So as I said, DOL has not provided any relief. You are not allowed to be furloughed, or you cannot you have to be paid. Your employer is not allowed to not to pay you, so you have to be paid. And you have 2 months to find for a new project, and once then you get a new project, you have to file for an amendment, and once you file an amendment, you can start working immediately. So that is the question.
Yeah, thank you. The next one is I think this is a young lady. She says, "Good afternoon. I am Sri Harshini. I entered US as an H4 dependent of my father, who holds an H1 visa. I am turning 21 years this April 21st, 2020. Though my latest I-94 has the admit until date is 10/7/21 based on my father's H1 expiry. I have applied for a change of status from H4 to F1 student status on October 15, 2019, but I did not get any approval till now. I did a case inquiry on March 21st because it was out of processing time. I got a response that the case is being adjusted, and I would like to hear back something I would hear back something in the following 45 days. 2 days ago, I saw that I have an RFE and I'm waiting for the mail. Since I will age soon, meaning I'll turn to 21 soon, I'm concerned about the situation. Should I file a B2 bridge petition to fill the potential gap, or should I expect that my stay on H4 visa could be extended given the current situation?
Okay, wish you a very advanced happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
It's
21.
You don't have to worry about it as long as you have filed for your change of status to F1, which is a very good thing you did, because many people have that question as well when the kids age out, and they have to move to another status. So you have already filed for it, and you have to wait for the RFE and see what is in the RFE and respond accordingly. You don't have to file any bridge petition as well. And there is always a question about this is about your question, and also there is always a question about people who have filed for an H1 extension and 240 days is nearing or has passed. So what should they do? So in this situation, if there's no relief currently when you have filed for an H1 extension, and if you're nearing 240 days, I would suggest that you have to, I would always suggest in this case, you should have done premium processing. Now that the premium processing is not available, if you're, once the 245 days has passed, you cannot work, but you can legally stay in the country until you get the decision. But you have to stop working after 240 days. So that is a scenario. I think we are closer to the time.
Yes. Do you want to take one more question, or should we?
That's fine. I can take it. Yeah.
Yes. So this is from Sachin. He says, I'm Sachin. My current visa status is H1B. My position is a direct hire in an XYZ company. Company does not want to give me any layoff, but company wants me to join them to work for some time after the end of Corona. Currently, I am the employee of the same company. If I want to keep 40 hours instead of 80 hours bi-weekly pay stub for a specific time period, is there any problem for an H1B status? And is it possible to generate $0 pay stub for 1 to 2 months on an H1B, meaning unpaid vacation, which you spoke about?
Yeah. So see, there are many scenarios in this case. We could have taken your question and analyzed it. That would have been a session as well. So definitely in this scenario, if you are on H1B and your employer wants to hire you back after 2 months, it is because you have 2 months time. Within 60 days, they can rehire you back. And if they have not canceled the H1, that is fine. They can do that as well. So, and if they are going to reduce the number of hours, we also spoke about it. They can do a part-time H1B, and they can file an amendment, and then immediately as soon as you file an amendment to part-time H1B, reducing the number of hours. I believe now you wanted to do 20 hours a week, I guess. So bi-weekly you said 80 hours, which means 40 hours. Now you are doing 80 hours. Now we wanted to do bi-weekly 40 hours, which means 20 hours a week, which will be a part-time H1B. And you can file for a part-time H1B and you can continue to work. Your employer has to pay you. There is no furlough allowed, but they can rehire you within the 60 days. That is allowed. So after termination, if they rehire you, that is allowed. And it depends on the situation, whether they have to refile the H1B, and you can immediately start within the 60 days. They can refile the H1B and start. You can start working, or some situation, it depends if it requires an amendment. The part-time H1B requires an amendment, and if there is any reduced wage, and if it is above the prevailing wage, then that requires an amendment as well. But it is very case specific. I would suggest that please contact a qualified attorney to get an answer giving your case specific situation, because and what your employer wants to do, because you have too many questions, and I mean, the general answer is that yes, if it's a part-time, you can do it, and rehiring is possible. All these are possible, but what petition you have to file, I would suggest you to contact an attorney as well.
And also, as you mentioned, state-wise, there are differences. So it's very specific, state-specific.
No, not in the H1B, but the unemployment is specific. Unemployment is state-specific. Yeah. H1B is it's a common thing. It's a part-time, they can do it. But when we have to file for an unemployment benefit, that is a very state-specific and state-controlled as well. Yeah. So I believe we have,
we have reached, yes. So thank you so much.
Not only that, I think we have covered most of their questions in the general thing itself. I believe, as I said, it's a very, very, very difficult time for all of us, and more specifically for immigrants here. So this too shall pass, stay strong, stay safe.
Thank you so much, Kavita ji. I'm sure a lot of people benefited from this session, and we're doing this to help our community. So and thanks so much for being a part of this and for answering our questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manya. And it was a very pleasure, being with you and discussing with you about the immigration. And definitely, I would say that, all these questions, as I said, we are overwhelmed with the questions and the response we have got to the session. And we will definitely, see at this time, even all the attorneys and so many people, I see so many free sessions for everything, people are yoga, Zumba, everything is,
Yes, yes, people are
sessions.
coming together.
So
Yes.
I would be part of it as well. So I would be very, very happy to answer all your questions. You will get an answer response to your email from the TVAsia group or any other organization where you have sent the questions. So definitely we will be happy to answer, and together as a team, we will definitely be supporting you in whichever way we can reduce your the stress you're going through at this point of time.
Yes, that's amazing. And please, this program is going to air on YouTube, so please do subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com TVAsia Telugu, so you could see the rerun if you want any other help. And thank you so much. Please stay safe, stay home, and yes, we can all conquer this together. I know everybody is going through a very difficult time, and we're praying from the bottom of our heart for each one of you, and we'll overcome.